Welcome to Rock Hill, South Carolina. I'm here at the Velodrome. I just finished up my interval workout, and I wanted to take a second and just talk to you about intervals. It's one of my #1 questions. You know, how many should I do? If I feel like I still have some more energy, should I do another one, and etc. Okay, so start with, what I'm about to tell you, this is not for everybody. This is the interval schedule that I personally put myself on, and it sucks. And it's the way to get the greatest gains, but yet every time that you do these, you will fail. Two types of athletes. You have the type of athlete that wants a goal at a workout that's so high that they have to reach for it every time. And then another one is like, well, I want achievable goals, because at the end of the day, they want to be able to look at their training peaks or their today's plan or whatever, and they want to be able to see those intervals and say, I succeeded. This is not for that group. This is for the group that says, I'm going to go out and do intervals. What should I do? How should I do them? What am I going to do to get my greatest gains? Okay, so I kind of use the hashtag fail to succeed. That's not fail to succeed, but it's fail to succeed. But I digress. I set an objective for every workout, and that objective might be average power. It might be a power I want to achieve during an interval. It may be a speed. It even might be a distance. But every workout, I don't care if it's from recovery to one of the hardest interval workouts I do, I have some type of a objective. Yesterday morning, went out to do an endurance ride. I went into my PMC chart in Training Peaks. I went and found out my PR of 90-minute average for the year, actually. And I'm like, I'm going to beat that. That was my goal for that ride. Now, a couple things real quick. Some just kind of my admin stuff. I use a Wahoo element, same with the Garmin. Shut the auto pause off, because that can really screw you up. And also try to do the same type of terrain each time, meaning I have a 32-mile loop that I do out of here. I'm always going to do that 32-mile loop. Back home, I've got a 47-mile loop. I'm always going to do that 47-mile loop. I understand, it's boring, it's the same thing every time, but I'm training. I'm not out just trying to look at the scenery. So even on an endurance ride, that's what I do. Each time I look at that ride, I make a decision. Okay, it's 47-mile loop. This is my best time on it. This ride, I'm going to beat that time. Because if I'm doing a 3-hour drive, well, it's actually 2 hours and 50 minutes or something like that. If I'm doing that, then I know that that's an endurance ride for me. It's only 2.5 hours, endurance/tempo. Okay, but let's go back to the really stuff that sucks a lot. And what I'm going to tell you for on the track and on the road, this is the same as for the gym. And I'll put a link up here to Brian Hummingston's video on the way that he does a gym. Completely changed the way that I do the gym, and it's wretched. But I want the maximum amount of games. Okay, so here's what I do. So today I was doing 45-minute efforts. Once again, I went into my Training Peaks and I looked at my 45-second max. Now, I only limited it to about the last 30 days because I don't want to add in their races and everything else, because in those cases, adrenaline might be up and everything else. I just kind of look at my last 30 days because I've done some 45-second efforts over the last 30 days. Then, and for me, it was 740 watts. Then I take 20% of that. So 20% of 740, what is that? 148. So it's so it'd be 592 watts. That's my failure point. I go out and I do my first interval. As soon as I'm done with that, I'm just kind of watching the Garmin. The Wahoo, I kind of know what my average was. If you want to, you can connect it up to your phone. You can look real time. But you have a pretty good sense of whether or not I'm between that 598 or 592 and that 740. I take my rest. Now, for me on the track, rest is completely off the bike, sitting with my feet up and everything else. On the road, that's going into a small chain ring, biggest cog in the back, and just pedaling easy. Because this is all about the interval. It's not about the recovery between the intervals as far as being part of the intervals. When we talk about repeatability and stuff like that, that's a completely different animal. But this is just the sake of the interval. I will do that. I'll look at the next one. If I'm still over 598, I do another one. If I'm still over 598, I do another one. If I'm still over 598, I do another one. As you can see, I continue to do those intervals until I fail. Once I'm underneath 598, I might do one more just to make sure that I'm getting the maximum amount of my 45 seconds, and then I'm done for the day. Is it the same for 15 seconds? Yes. 30 seconds? Yes. 45 seconds? Yes. 5 minutes? Yes. 20 minutes? Yes. As you can see, I go to failure on every interval. Now let's talk about the gym. Same type of thing. Like I said, I'll post Ryan's video, and he's going to articulate this much better than me. So I'll do sets of 20, like Ryan recommends. And if I'm doing bicep curls, I'll grab a weight. I'll do 20. If I get to 20, that's a warm-up set. I grab a heavier weight. If I get to 20, that's a warm-up set. I grab a heavier weight. Then I go. If I get to 18 and the next two really are kind of ugly, that's my first set. I will then do 3 or 4 more sets until I'm completely wretched, just ugly. I hope nobody saw my last set and everything else. Now on some of the compound movements like squats and so forth, you have to be a little bit, you have to use your head. And, you want to go out and try to do this to failure every time doing like squats. However, you could do like back squats and then rack the bar, drop the weights, throw the other bar on, and then start doing air squats. You can do that. So my point is, this is not high intensity interval training. This is not any other type of training. All this is training to exhaustion, or intervals to exhaustion or intervals to failure. Set your objective, know what that number is, go for it. Now I mentioned talking about like speed and that type of stuff. Another great one. If you got a route, each time beat that speed. Simple as that. If you're trying to do heart rate a little more difficult, I would default to a speed than that. On power, you can always say, I'm going to do my best 90-minute power average, or I'm doing my best 90-minute normalized power if you have something that you're concerned about, stoplights and that type of stuff. If you got any questions, don't hesitate to drop them below. Remember, fail to succeed, and talk to you later.